The Moors, black rulers who civilized Europe. They told you Europe rose out of the Dark Ages on its own, that the Renaissance just happened. But what if the spark that set Europe's golden age ablaze came from Africa? For over 700 years, black Moors ruled Spain, and during those centuries, Europe's so-called Dark Ages were filled with African light. Let's go back to the year 711 CE. A North African general named Tariq ibn Ziyad crossed the Strait of Gibraltar with his army. He was a Berber of African descent, and many of his soldiers were unmistakably black. They stormed into Iberia and defeated the Visigothic king. From that moment, Europe would never be the same. Even the name Gibraltar comes from him, Jabal Tariq, the mountain of Tariq. A permanent reminder carved into the map of Europe by an African conqueror. So, who were the Moors? They were Muslims of North and West Africa, Berbers, Arabs, and black Africans. Together, they built one of the most advanced civilizations of the Middle Ages. And they brought with them a fire of knowledge Europe had nearly forgotten. While most of Europe was living in mud huts, the Moors built magnificent cities like Córdoba, Granada, and Seville. Cities with paved streets, street lamps, aqueducts, running water, and public baths. At a time when London had maybe a few thousand people, Córdoba was a shining metropolis of 500,000. In Córdoba alone, the Moors established over 70 libraries, some holding hundreds of thousands of books. To put that in perspective, most of Christian Europe's libraries could barely count a few dozen. They brought mathematics. The very word algebra comes from Arabic al-jabr. They advanced astronomy, charting the stars with precision. They refined medicine, performing surgeries, writing medical encyclopedias, and establishing hospitals centuries before Europe caught up. They were architects, too. The Alhambra Palace in Granada, with its intricate patterns, gardens, and fountains, still stands as a wonder of the world. And everywhere the Moors went, they planted not only ideas, but food. Rice, sugar, citrus fruits, coffee, even irrigation systems that transformed farming in Spain. Europeans learned to wash daily, to bathe regularly, and to light their streets because of Moorish innovations. But their influence didn't stop at culture and comfort. They preserved and expanded the works of the Greeks and Romans, philosophy, science, logic, and knowledge that had been nearly lost in Europe's collapse. When European scholars studied Aristotle or Plato during the Renaissance, they weren't reading the originals. They were reading translations the Moors had safeguarded, expanded, and passed down. Without the Moors, the Renaissance might never have happened. Think about it. How did Europe suddenly leap from centuries of darkness into an age of discovery, invention, and art? How did the Renaissance ignite when Europe had been stagnant for so long? The answer is clear. The knowledge and brilliance of the Moors lit the flame. Even Columbus in 1492 relied on Moorish maps and astronomical charts to sail across the Atlantic. The very voyage that discovered the Americas was powered by African knowledge. Yet this part of history is barely mentioned. Why? Because after the Reconquista, when Spain drove out the Moors in 1492, history was rewritten. The Inquisition didn't just burn books, it tried to erase memory. African contributions were painted over, quite literally. Artists began portraying Moors with lighter skin, or excluding them altogether. And European powers that rose afterward had no interest in admitting they owed their progress to Africa. But the truth cannot be erased. Europe's Renaissance was not born in isolation. It was sparked by centuries of African brilliance brought by the Moors. So the next time someone tells you that Africa was primitive or that Europe pulled itself up on its own, ask them this: what truly lit the fire of the Renaissance? The answer points south across the Mediterranean to Africa. This is Sankofa Secrets. Subscribe now, and together, let's reclaim the history they tried to erase.